Hey homesteaders, my name is Melissa with Gullion Homestead and welcome to my channel where I focus on homesteading skills, self-sufficiency, and resilience. And today we're going to talk about houseplants. So I went to the hardware store this morning to purchase some dirt or soil to repot some plants, and I've got a lot of little plant projects going on in my house right now that I really need to get taken care of. I have plants that I have repotted. They are growing out of their pots now, and it's time to replant them into some bigger pots. Now let me tell you, this time of the year is the best time to buy pots. Most of the time you can find them on clearance, and since it's towards the end of the season, they typically are ready to get rid of their pots and dirt. I got a steal on some potting soil for my citrus and for my regular houseplants at Walmart today for $5 a bag, which was fabulous. So they're ready to get rid of it because it's not like a garden center that actually sells that stuff all year long. They've got to make room for other things. Christmas stuff is coming in. The fall stuff just has come in. Pumpkins, Christmas trees, all that. They need to get rid of all this stuff. So this is a great time of year to buy. So even if you don't need big pots yet, but you know that you're going to, go ahead and check some of those sources out because it's great. Now today I purchased 4 pots today. I have this large pot, which I think I'm gonna put my spider plant in. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you guys here in just a minute some of the things we're gonna do. I bought this nice little, I bought a couple of these the other day in different colors and I love them. This was only $5 and it's a ceramic pot that I think I'm going to put a succulent in. I've got some succulents in some small pots I transplanted and they're growing out of those. So I'm going to do that. We're going to talk about the Meyer Lemon Tree that's not going so well. And then I'm going to grab these other 2 pots I have for you guys to see as well. So I got this cute chocolate brown pot. I love that one too. I have a plant over here I'm going to show you here shortly that's not doing so well. Come to find out, when I bought it like a year ago, and I have deadheaded some leaves off this plant I don't know how many times. And I just recognized that it's in a plastic pot inside of another pot. So that is probably the problem. It probably has no nutrition. The roots are probably outgrowing that pot. I'm hoping I can save that. My plan is to try to put that into this brown pot and see if we can save that. And then I have another succulent little pot that I got as well today. So let's go take a look now at the Meyer Lemon Tree because we've got some issues with it. If you followed me for a while, you probably remember that I purchased a Meyer Lemon Tree early in the season. And this lemon tree has hardly any leaves on it. It actually has probably tripled in size from when I got it, maybe even more than that. But I had it outside all summer long just to get it some really good sunlight and growth. And well, I brought it in, repotted it in some fresh citrus soil. So this is citrus potting soil in there. And pretty much it must think it's fall because I've lost all the leaves. But I want to show you what good things are happening to the plant. I'm not giving up. This plant is still very alive. I mean, it's not dead. You can see that the green branches, they're very green. They're not dead. It might go dormant for a little bit. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just gonna keep going on with this and hopefully we'll get some new leaves that come on this plant. But here's what I wanted to show you is I have a lemon. We've got a lemon right there. And then I think we've got, I just saw 2 other, there's like, it looks like maybe a little leaf right there that's starting. And then right down here, I think these might be lemons too, like they're little flowers. So I think those are lemons too. So I'm not too worried about that plant because I feel like it's gonna pull together. So I'll keep you guys kind of in the loop on how that goes this winter. But I love having houseplants. I love having plants inside because once the garden season's over, I'm so sad that I have nothing else to grow. So I'm excited that we have that. Now let's take a look at this plant right here. This plant right here, it's got the cutest little pot, but come to find out this plant is sitting inside. There's another pot inside there. I did not even know that. So we're gonna work right now at repotting that plant. Let's start with that plant right now. So the bonus to buying a plant like this that already has a pot like this, is that as it grows out of this pot, you've got a great, this is a ceramic pot, so it's a great, cute little pot. But the other day I was looking at it and it has some new growth in here, but I really have cut a lot of the growth out in there. And some of the leaves are just dying off, but I have got some stuff that's still doing okay. Well, probably the biggest issue is, look at that big root hanging out the bottom of this plant. It has totally rooted itself into this pot. There's probably no nutrients left in this soil at all. So today I went and bought some, it's not my favorite, but I got Miracle-Gro. It was 4 pots for potted plants. And it was $5 for this big bag. So I went ahead and got it because I thought this is a good deal. I have a lot to pot right now, but I do like some other products a little bit more, but we're gonna go ahead and go with the Miracle-Gro that we have today. So I am going to, literally, this thing is dying for some help here. Hopefully I can get this off. I think what I'm gonna try to do is cut this pot away from the plant, because I would imagine if I try to pull it out, yeah, I'm probably just gonna rip the plant apart. But now we've got a whole new pot that I can actually plant something else in, and I've got a few things around here I think I can use this for. So I'm gonna put my pots aside. I think this plant is gonna go great in this brown pot. It has a hole in the bottom, so we're gonna discuss what we're gonna do with that as well. But I bet if I put this in here, get some real healthy dirt in there, and just try to pay a lot of attention to it, I bet I can get this to bounce back here in a few months. And so that's what we're gonna do, is we're gonna work on trying to get this to bounce back. Okay, so we got a bag of Miracle-Gro moisture control potting mix, and it is a cubic feet, 1 cubic foot. I got this for $5. Now, I typically have a bag of soil in my garage at all times in the wintertime, because I'm always like moving things around and repotting things as they're growing. So, but it's kind of hard to find it unless you go to a gardening center. So if you can find a good deal like this is probably gonna be enough for me for this winter. But depending on how much I use today, I might even go back and get another bag. So now, I'm not gonna say that I'm clean when I'm working, and I do most of my potting in my kitchen, because it is the easiest place I have to wipe the counter clean. When I do it outside, I tend to get dirt just really, and I know that sounds crazy, but I get dirt in places that makes it difficult to clean, because my table out there is made of boards and it gets down in between the boards. So this is just a great place. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can handle the hole in the bottom of your plant, your pot. Now it's important for you to have a hole down there because of drainage, for sure. But one thing I don't like is when my dirt comes out the bottom of my pot. So a lot of times what I'll do is I will take something and stick in the bottom of that hole that will also allow for drainage. Today I'm going to put some steel wool, because I have some old steel wool that I'm not using anymore. It's pretty much at the end of its life right here, and I just stick it right down there in that hole. You could put a rock down there if you've got a rock, an old sponge you can just cut into like quarters and put that right there. It works great because it will allow for drainage still. So you're in good shape when it comes to that. Now, I am just going to start by scooping some dirt into my pot. This might seem incredibly generic and elementary to some of you, but I know that there are people out there that this kind of freaks them out. They don't really know how to handle repotting a plant. So easy. It's not hard at all. I might not be doing it the way other people do it, but this is just, I make it as easy as possible. I fill up my pot about halfway and enough that I know that my plant is going to sit inside there. So you can kind of gauge, and then I'm gonna fill in around it. Now, the thing with this is I'm gonna try to cut this away. These are not, there, it's actually cutting away pretty easily. All right, you guys are gonna see how crazy these roots are. This plant is starving. It's probably going to bounce back pretty nicely because the root system is so good. So now the roots are pulling right out of the bottom of that. And so we've got all kinds of roots in there. And they're pretty loose, so I'm happy about that because I want them down into that dirt, like so. And go ahead and take what we have left and stick it in there. You don't want to waste anything you have. And I do feed my plants throughout the winter and sometimes in the summertime too. But I'm not going to feed this right now because I'm getting ready to put this potting mix in. It's pretty good potting mix, so I think it'll be great for now for this plant. I also think this plant needs just a little bit of trimming. There's no reason to keep dead leaves on there. That actually is just gonna pull from the nutrition of the other healthy leaves. So you wanna make sure that you get rid of that. Now I'm gonna trim this back. It's gonna look a little sickly because there's not very many leaves, but honestly, I think once we get this thing going, it's going to pop back very nicely. Is I purchased some of these plastic trays. They're not my favorite thing, but I've already I've damaged a couple pieces of furniture because of that. And I am gonna put this on an antique table over there, so I wanna make sure that, and I think this is the one that works well with that. Yep, and so let's take it over and sit it down on the table and see how it looks. Okay, so I grabbed my spider plant. I'm gonna throw my dirt back here for right now. I'm getting ready I'm gonna scoop some of this dirt up that's on my countertop, and we're gonna put it in the next pot. I don't wanna get rid of any of that. So this spider plant came from my neighbor, I wanna say it was last Christmas. And it was, I'm gonna show you what size it was. Now this is a little succulent, but this is an example. It came in a little pot. I think it came in this pot actually. It was in this pot and it was the size of this. I've not actually gotten any spidery, like the spiders that come off of your spider plant. I have not had a spider plant in my home. I don't even know if I've ever had a spider plant. I remember my mom always had a spider plant and she had it hanging in those macrame hangers around the house when we were kids. And I always thought they were super cool. Well, my friend down the street, she had a bunch of starts, and so she gave me one, and it has blossomed beautifully. Now, it's in a pretty small, medium, small container, and I mean, the thing is just exploding in there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the big pot that I purchased, because this thing, first of all, is gonna look great in here because it's just going to be falling out the sides really great, but also it's gonna give it lots of root space to grow, and I think it's just gonna get really big. and that's gonna be beautiful. I am very excited to see how, I think this will be a great floor plant, but right now I think I'm gonna put it right back where I got it, just because I don't have a place really that I wanna put this. But we're gonna go ahead and do exactly what we just did. I'm going to throw part of this steel bowl down there. You don't really have to have that big of a piece, but so I just have enough right here that'll fit in down near that hole. It's on top of the hole. Then I'm just going to start by throwing some of the dirt that we have left here on top. We want to kind of weight that thing down so it doesn't move around. And then we're going to get back to filling that up with dirt like we did with our last plant. Now, while I'm doing this, actually I think I'm just going to pour this in here. I want to talk about watering your plants. Okay. I want to talk about watering your plants. So when I first started purchasing houseplants, I was treating them like a garden, and that is not the right thing to do. So hopefully this comes out okay, because it is, I might have to dig around this a little bit. So here's another trick. I put moss on top of some of my plants. I don't really have any extra moss right now, but the moss helps keep the moisture in, and that's been a great thing as well. Let me grab an old spoon, and I'm gonna dig around here so that I can get this out, because there's lots. You can tell the root ball is pretty good size. Yeah, so that's the root ball. It's actually done very well. There is the sponge that was in the bottom of my pot from before. Now, I'm going to try to, yeah, I think it needs a little bit more dirt in there. Let's go ahead and pour that in there. And anyway, I had some moss, and I saw this trick somewhere, and it's worked great. If you put moss on top of your dirt, it actually keeps the moisture in your plant, which is great. So I have done that in the past, and it's worked fabulous for me. But when you're watering your plants, you don't need to water them every day or every other day. Really, your plants can go almost 2 weeks. With some plants, they can go about 2 weeks. Succulents can go 3 to 4 weeks without being watered. So if you water them too much, they're not meant to be watered every day. If you water them too much, you will actually cause root rot, and then your plant will not survive. So now this plant looks like it's getting kind of wimpy now, because you can tell it was majorly supported by this little bowl, this little pot, and now it's gonna have a lot of room to kind of poof out. It's gonna take a bit for this to actually kind of bounce back, but I bet it bounces back in the next couple of days. I have this looking great. I'm gonna take it over and set it on the plastic. We got the plastic ring I have sitting on the table, and we're gonna water this one up. Oh yeah, this one's heavy. All right, so we got a mess here in the kitchen, but that's okay. If I work on cleaning it up too much, we're just gonna have to redo it. So we're already gonna get some dirt. So I'm just gonna shove that dirt over there. Now, here's what we have to work with. We have our 2 succulent pots, and now we've got this new pot that I kind of forgot that I was going to have. So I have a couple of succulents. I have a aloe plant that needs to be repotted, but I really think the aloe plant's gonna have to wait till next week because it needs a bigger pot than these 2. So there's really no sense in doing that right now. So I think what we'll do is let's pull a couple of our succulents back out here so we can kind of look at what we have and try to put them in the most appropriate pot. I'm going to show you what this is for here in just a minute. So we've got a couple of succulents right there. We've got these right here. Okay, so I know this looks like a hot mess, but this is kind of how I work. I just, if I'm gonna get dirt, I'm just gonna go ahead and get it all done at one time, and then we can come back to it and clean it up afterwards. So let's talk about this little doozy right here. So this I've had for a long time, but you can surely find something like this, but you can also just use a ball jar. And I have them full of water. And what I do is if I want to propagate something, this is my propagation station right here. Now this is not what this is meant for, but I just thought it was really cute and industrial when we moved into our house. But it has been the perfect propagation station for me to propagate. And this is what I did with these. So I basically just took a clipping of these, put it in one of my little water jugs here, and in about 14 days, you start to get roots. I had them in here for like probably 2 months because I just didn't get around to it. So the roots were really, really long. So I put those in these little pots, but honestly, they're starting to grow out of them. These are great little pots for when you're first starting to propagate, or you can also propagate in dirt if you would like. If you use like a root starter, you can do that as well. And I have some of that, but I haven't really kind of fallen off of using that root stuff as much. But some of these right here, this little thing right here, these plants have been in here for probably 2 years. And this one in the middle is completely dead. It did not make it. It is crunchy and I kept watering it. It needed to be in a bigger container and that was my fault. So this will be another good propagation station that I could use in the future, but I'm going to repot what's in this container because I'm not happy with, it's not deep enough. And I feel like the same thing with these. They're okay for a while, but they're not deep enough. And once you start to get a root, you need something a little bit deeper. So I'm gonna put my propagation business aside, but I wanted you to see that this is what I do. You just take a root cutting and actually put it in your water. You can change out your water fresh every day. That's kind of a good idea. I did that at first, but then I kind of lose track of it because I have other things to do, and it works out fabulous. So something to consider. And the other thing is too, is that when you have plants in your home, you can start off with like 3 or 4 plants and you can develop a whole bunch of plants from those plants if you just do some propagation. So you don't have to buy a bunch of plants in your home to have a bunch of new houseplants. Okay, so I think what I would like to do is, so this one right here is kind of struggling. It's starting to lose its leaves. I really want it to have a deeper, so I think I'm gonna put that in here because I think it needs to be a little bit deeper. I'm hoping to save it. It's dry as a bone. One thing about succulents is they hold their water in their leaves, so you only have to water them like once every 3 to 4 weeks. But if you don't have enough dirt or root space for them to kind of grow under the dirt too, you could be causing yourself more harm than good by not watering them enough as well. And that was kind of the problem with this. This thing is bone dry. It's really, really dry. That's what happened with this too. I've had this thing for like 4 years and it's never gotten any bigger. So I'm moving that to the side. I'm done with that one for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take this sponge that I had one of these sponges in the bottom, and I'm just going to reuse it. It doesn't disintegrate, so that's the bad thing, but for our environment, of course, but it's a good thing for plants because you can just reuse them over and over again. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our cactus succulent soil, which is a different type of soil to repot these plants. Okay, so this soil is cactus, citrus, succulent soil. It's really great for these types of plants. It's different than potting soil. Looking for my scissors here. It looks the same, but it's actually specifically made, and it's really more powdery, specifically made for succulents. So this is what I planted my citrus plant in, and I'm not too worried about my citrus plant over there because I think I just repotted it like 10 days to 2 weeks ago. Hopefully that bounces back, but I'm not too worried about it because I probably just shocked it from bringing it inside. I mean, when you bring plants from outdoors to indoors, a lot of times they don't survive very well, but this one, it just really looks like it's gone dormant. It just thinks that it's fall and it's losing its leaves. At least in my head, that's what's happening. All right, so let's move all this out of the way. We're gonna take this little pot right here and I'm going to throw a little dirt in it, just like I did the last one. This one does have a hole in the bottom of it. Some of the bigger pots like this do. I'm gonna set this right down inside there and we're just gonna fill it in. Now I'm gonna give this a really good watering because that root, that little dirt ball, actually, I think now that I think about it, I'm gonna try to break that apart and just get the root in there because there you go. You can see that root. That's what I'm gonna do. I think that would be better because I feel like sometimes when you get, sometimes when you're replanting these things, it's like embedded in that old dirt and I feel like it never wants to absorb, almost like it's got dry rot, but it doesn't. Like the dirt doesn't wanna absorb the water. There's probably a more technical term for that, but in Melissa's kitchen, this is what we're doing. Now my kitchen is normally not this messy, but we are working on repotting plants. So if you're just now joining me, this is what we're doing. So, and I would say that the other thing about this is that the dirt looks a little bit more sandy than a potting soil does. Now I purchased some of these small discs right here for the pots that have holes in it to protect my furniture like that. And again, I don't like the way it looks, but from a distance, you can't really even see it very well. Like when I'm looking over, all I see is my pots. I don't really even see these. So I'm gonna go put this up somewhere and then we're going to move on to planting more succulents. decided to take this little disc off that one little succulent because it's sitting on a little like tray from a weight that is, or scale that won't affect the furniture. So I'll just save this for another time. Okay, so we have one pot left here. I have a couple of succulents left. This one is almost not really big enough to worry about right now. So I'm gonna leave this in this little pot because we're basically out of pots now. The aloe plant I have came from Florida. My stepdad, he grows aloe plants, and he just grows these huge aloe plants, and they get these little pup plants. And he gave me one. The last one I had, I killed because I overwatered. That was one of the things I overwatered. So I think what we're gonna do is, this pot is really, well, I could reuse this pot because it's a cute pot. I don't mind it. But the dirt in it's really dry. This was falling over, this succulent was falling over. So let me dump this out because I'm not loving what's going on with this dirt. And I'm gonna go dump this in the garden, and then we'll put some of our succulent soil in this pot. So these two are about the same size. This is my aloe plant, and it gets very big and very beautiful, but it needs a really big pot. So that's why I think I'm just gonna hold off on this. I think I'm going to water that. I think I'll water this, and then we'll just hang on tight. This hasn't been watered in a while. And we'll hold on tight to this pot. And then what I'll do is I'll get a big pot to plant this in, because you guys, I just had an aha moment. This plant, it needs to be potted so bad. It is on its last leg. It's string of pearls, I think that's what they call it. It's beautiful, I love it. It has these little flowers, but it's got a lot of dead stuff going on in here, and it's very delicate, and this is one of the reasons I have not repotted it. I've had this thing for about 3 years. It's done pretty well, but I think that it literally just needs a reboost in soil. So I think what I'm gonna do is put that in this pot right here. I think I'm gonna put, and I'm losing pearls on the ground as we speak, but I think what we're gonna do is stick a sponge down here, and let's go ahead and see if we can repot this. Now this is a delicate plant. I can tell you that I almost just had the garden center that I bought it at, because I bought it at a garden center that specializes in this kind of stuff. I almost had them repot it for me, but I didn't have a pot at the time, and so I just didn't do that. So let's see, I'm gonna pull some of this dirt off so we can get down to the roots and see where we're at. The roots look like they're pretty shallow. So I'm just gonna set that down inside there. And then we're gonna cover it up with some fresh dirt and see if I can get this thing to bounce back a little bit. I didn't really think that I would have a pot for this, but I literally buried some of the pearls that were, some of the stuff that was dead, and I'm just gonna go with it and see how this works. Now, one way, I did water it in, even though I didn't check the pearls, but one way you can see if this actually needs to be watered is, I'll show you. So let me see if I can find one for you. Do you see right? There's a big pearl right there, and it looks like it's completely closed, but when you have a little crease in there and it's open, that means it needs to be watered. I'll tell you, there are some pearls on here that are split open, so it didn't look like it needed to be watered, but considering I put it into some fresh soil, I think it was a good idea that I did that. So I'm gonna go put this back on the shelf where I got it, pull some of this dry stuff off. Hopefully we can get this thing to bounce back and get really full again. That's what I would love. But basically, this is what we have. That's what's left. Still looks very beautiful. I think we can make it work. Okay, friends, we're on our last pot, and then this video is about over. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick some of that dirt from that last pot in here just to save it, because it's just at the bottom here. And then what I'm gonna do is I am going to repot this, which was in there originally, but I think I'm going to add this one to it as well. And this is something that's really fun to do. You don't have to keep all of the same succulents in one pot. It's kind of fun to have like a couple of different succulents in one pot. And as long as there's room for it to grow, there's no reason you can't do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 in this pot. And then we're just gonna fill it in with dirt. And this pot right here is not my favorite pot because it's plastic. I don't really love plastic pots, but you really can't tell from a distance that it's plastic. It's got this nice like waffle grid pattern around it. I really like it, but it doesn't feel as heavy as some of the other pots. I think that's why I don't care for it as much, but still, it's cute. It's just not one of my go-tos normally. Okay, Homesteaders, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's not one of my normal videos, I know, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about houseplants. Wanted to show you just the project I was working on today. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. We hope you're having the best day. Bye.